Good morning, guys. Today I'm going to be taking you through what my workouts have been looking like for leg day. I do legs about 2 times a week like this. Just screenshot the workout here. And I'll be explaining my workout now. So what I always do is I start off with some glute activation. You can see here that I'm doing the banded fire hydrant, so that's when I'm bringing the knee out to the side. I keep this band right above my knee because it is pretty heavy, but let's say you only had a light band, you could wrap that band around the ankles and it would make it a little bit more challenging. Right after that, I'm going right in with donkey kicks. This is going to warm up my upper glute, so I make sure I squeeze up at the top. I also feel this in my hamstrings as well, and that is definitely due to having that band on. But when I'm doing the donkey kicks, I make sure that I am pushing up with my heel. Alright, so I did 2 sets of 15 on each side, and I always do some kind of activation even when I'm at the gym with the band before I start, just so I can make sure that I'm keeping the concentrate on my glutes and not so much of my quads. I get asked all the time where I get these loop bands from because they are literally the best bands, but they're made by Mark Bell Slingshot. And it came with a pack of 3, so there was a light, a medium, and a heavy one. So moving on, we're going into hip thrust now. I'm going to show you how I set up into the hip thrust. This is not how I set up for hip thrust when I'm at the gym. I definitely do this a lot differently. So this barbell has about 70 pounds on it, and usually at the gym, I lift over 200 pounds with my hip thrust. So how am I going to make this harder? What I do is I focus on going slow as I'm lowering my hips down, and then I use more power and speed on the way up. That really activates the glutes. Also, when I'm lifting over 200 pounds in the gym, I don't wear the loop band. So since the weight is obviously a lot lower, I will wear the loop band just to activate a little bit more. So I really take my time with this movement and I make sure that every single rep counts. And this is me getting out of that movement. So now we're going into sumo squats, which we'll be doing for 4 sets and 10 reps. Now the heaviest dumbbells that I have access to are a pair of 20-pound dumbbells. So that only leaves 40 pounds. So I was doing goblet squats before, but it was just too easy. So I figured out a way to do some sumo squats with a band wrapped around my upper back, and it made them a little bit more challenging. I definitely got some more glute activation, but like I said before, the goblet squats were not cutting it, so I needed to change it up. Also, to feel this more in my glutes, I actually arched my upper back and made sure that I did a really big squeeze up at the top, and I felt this more in my glutes. But if I were to keep my shoulders back and keep my chest all the way up and just push my hips back, I probably would have felt this more in my legs. So now going in with the calf raises, I did 3 sets of 20 reps of the calf raises. I do recommend if you're going to do these at home, don't wear shoes. I was wearing shoes here and I definitely regret it, but what you're going to do is just lift your heels off the ground and squeeze that calf muscle as much as you can. I like to have this in the middle of my workout because it gives me a little bit of a break between those first 2 movements and then the following accessory work that's going to come along here. So as you can see here, I'm still holding on to those 40-pound dumbbells. Now moving on to the next movement, we have the Bulgarian split squat. I think is one of the most challenging movements ever, but it's just a lunge with the back leg elevated. So on this one, I make sure I just push my hips back and lean a little bit forward because my goal is definitely to build the glute and the hamstring and not to build the quad. So also with the front leg, I'm pushing off through the heel. Whenever you're doing any lunge movement, that front leg, the foot should be completely on the floor the entire way through. In all of my leg days, I always do some sort of leg curl, whether that's a seated curl, a single leg curl, or a line curl. I have access to this line curl here, so just some key notes. When I bring my heels all the way up, I always take it slow on the way back down. So I go a little faster on the way up and then slow on the way down to control that negative. Remember, lengthening a muscle is way more stressful than shortening a muscle. And I'm definitely lengthening my muscle as I'm bringing the bar down. I have about 35 pounds on this movement, and it was actually a really good weight for me because I was still able to control it, but also when I stood up, I could definitely feel like my hamstrings were on fire, so that's when you know the weight is good. So to finish off this workout, we are going to end off with banded glute bridges. I just did 2 sets of 50 reps of glute bridges to finish off. I wanted to finish off the workout with a movement that was really going to activate my glutes, so I thought, why not do really high volume banded work just to finish off here. So for this glute bridge, I just have my legs a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. My toes are pointed out slightly, and I'm really putting a focus on keeping my knees pushed out because I do have that band on, so that band is going to try to push my knees together. From there, I'm going to push up with my heel and then lift up my hips. I'm going to try to keep my hips off the ground as much as I can in order to keep constant tension. If I let my hips touch the floor every single time, the tension would end. Sometimes people will feel their glute bridge in their lower back. If you feel like you're struggling with the same thing, just do a pelvic tilt on the floor before you go into your glute bridge. That'll help you focus on keeping your back neutral while making sure you're engaging the glutes, right? Because if your back is rounded, curved, it's doing whatever it wants, or you're lifting up with your back, it's going to take over. So you have to do that pelvic tilt before you begin your glute bridge. Thank you for watching the workout, and I will see you in the next one.